welcome to the My Reader Minutes. I'm just coming here for a few seconds, trying to mull over the Diddy verdict that we heard yesterday. Um, what y'all think? Was it what y'all thought was going to happen? If any of you all follow me, I've kind of said in so many words, if not the exact words, that the prosecution needed to pick charges that they knew that was going to stick. Now, they did luck out with the verdict, where as far as the jury did find him guilty on two charges, with the transportation of the escorts, I'll say, and each one of those counts carry a sentence of 10 years. So potentially he could get 20 years. Potentially. Well, I mean, I don't think he's going to get that, but that's the max, right? And the prosecution said they are going for the max. Of course, they're going to go for the max, right? Because they know they're not going to get the max. Anywho, I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I didn't understand why people were cheering as if he had gotten off scot-free. He's not in the clear. Now, maybe because they thought he was going home yesterday. I don't know why they thought he was going home, because if you're found guilty of a crime that you're being tried for, can you go home? I've never known it for you to go home. Even though he got found not guilty of the more, egregious charges, um, because they were still felonies, I think, right? And by them, the counts, like I said, there's two counts of it, so it's 20 years max. Would you just go home? Because I don't that made no sense to me, because I'm thinking to myself, well, he's still found guilty, so he's going to jail. He's going to have to do something. But people were like celebrating. I didn't understand why people were celebrating, because it's not really a happy time. Yeah, okay, he didn't get the Rico or whatever. That's, he didn't get life. That was why you were celebrating. I guess you have a reason to celebrate if you cared whether or not he got Rico or not. But I'm just thinking about all the stories people had of him and all the things that he did to people. Their stories wasn't there, so I don't know how true they are. But is everybody lying on Diddy? Everybody? Gene Deal, is he lying on Diddy? All the testimonies, which sounded similar, because, were all of them lying on Diddy? I don't think they were lying. Now, like I said, in my last video, I called him a bully. I have him more so being a bully. He has money and power, so he uses that, to get what he wants, gets people to do what he wants, and gets what he wants when he wants, right? So, but I feel like what comes with that, he has an edge about him, and he's like, "This is what I want." Like, he comes across like he's like you know, that man, right? But after they tell the different freak off stories about what he likes in the bedroom, he don't come across to me as that man no more. I'm sorry, he don't. Okay? I don't care if he's not participating actually with the male escorts. He's still participating with stuff from the male escorts. And to me, that's not no thug type action, is it? Uh, no thugs that like to play in other people's finishings. I don't know about that. Anywho, I don't know. I'm not championing him um not getting the RICO, because he's still a convicted felon as far as I'm concerned. And he did a lot of stuff to people. Now I understand that some of the things that he did, like to Cassie, um, the statute of limitations ran out. But just because it ran out doesn't mean he didn't do it. I mean, they had to put this girl up in hotels for her to heal because he would just randomly just go off on her and kick her and punch her and blacken her eyes. There should be some repercussions for that. I get what you're saying. That wasn't what he was tried for. That wasn't any of the charges. And he admitted to being, having the DV a part of his, he didn't deny any of that. Well, even though that the statute of limitations ran out, don't you think you need to pay for it some type of way? And I guess they're saying the lawsuit that he paid for that. But I don't know if there's a money amount on that because the scars that she will wear for life, is 20 million enough? I'm just saying, I'm just throwing stuff out there. What do y'all think? We need to have a discussion. I'm really curious about what people think. Like, why, if you are happy and celebrating the fact that Diddy didn't get found guilty on all uh 6 charges or six or whatever it is, however the amount. You got and maybe he's still just found guilty on the 2 lesser charges. Why are you celebrating him? Because he didn't get life? I don't think he deserved life. I don't think anybody deserved life unless they take out somebody. But ain't going there. But y'all know where I was going with it, right? So I wish somebody watched my video. Because like I said, I'm gonna make a playlist. And I'm gonna make a playlist of all my Diddy videos now. And when it first started coming out with this Diddy, this, Diddy, that, Diddy, this, remember all of the different allegations that were coming out? I made all my videos and I kept saying, y'all need to stop going after Diddy for this bull crap and find a charge that's going to stick. I said, because he gonna walk. I kept saying that. He gonna walk. And he still just might. I feel like he's been in there long enough. It'll be time served and he gonna go home. I mean, it's a his charge is transporting escorts. Why would you give someone 20 years for that? I mean, you could, because that's what the law, the statute says, right? Am I saying it right? I don't know. That's what the law, that's what the sentence, that's what that particular charge carries. That's the sentence that particular charge carries, up to 10 years. Keywords, up to, which means he could get 10 days extra because he's already been there 10 months. Now, what they should do, now, if I was a judge, this is what I would do. And I think I'm pretty fair. Given the jury's verdict, his 2 counts, I would run them concurrent, like meaning that they would run at the same time. So he wouldn't get any more than 10 years, right? 2 of those years he may have to do minus the time that he's already done. So he may have to do a whole nother year. So, right? When he comes home, those next 5 years, he would be on parole. If he did any type of violation while on parole, then he would be back in there. And that means they would drug piss him, whatever they do when you take your drug tests and stuff like that. He would have to do that. He would have to do that because he needs to be clean. You don't want him coming back out, going back to what he was doing. He should have dried out now by being in there. But, well, not necessarily because they can get this stuff in the penitentiary still. But okay, so I have the letter from his lawyer. And it says, Dear Judge Subramanian, whatever his name is, Dr. Combs, wow. Mr. Combs should be released on bail today. For months, the government repeatedly argued and announced to the world that Sean Combs was a monster who perpetrated a 20-year federal crime spree through a racketeering enterprise. It devoted enormous resources to this prosecution. Then, after almost a year in detention, Mr. Combs finally got his day in court, and the government's allegations were tested before a jury of his peers. That jury heard the government's evidence, including testimony from his former girlfriends. By its verdict, the jury resoundingly rejected the government's depiction of Mr. Combs. The jury found him not guilty of racketeering conspiracy and not guilty of trafficking. It convicted him only on 2 prostitute accounts, which were related to the transportation of adults. Adults whom the jury clearly found were consensual participants in the actual activity. These offenses are of a far less serious nature. Prostitute offenses are no longer even prosecuted as a matter of policy in the Manhattan DA's office, and the same is true for Los Angeles and many other local district attorney offices. It would be unjust to continue detaining Mr. Combs at the MDC even one day longer, especially since, given the sentencing guidelines for these prostitute offenses, he would otherwise be entitled to serve any additional time imposed at a lower security facility. We write to respond to the government's arguments opposing bail. First, Mr. Combs was not convicted of a crime of violence, and the court should therefore consider his bail application under the standard outlined. And then they have the title. Second, the government overstates Mr. Combs' sentencing's exposure. And third, to the extent the court should release Mr. Combs on the proposed conditions because there are exceptional reasons why his detention would not be appropriate. The government is incorrect to suggest that Mr. Combs was convicted of a crime of violence, as that provisions includes only, and then it says chapter 117, offenses involving minors. Okay. Minors, I'm sorry, not manners. This is not this case. Thus, the standards apply to Mr. Combs' bail request, not those contained in this title. So they're reciting all these titles about why it doesn't apply to him, doesn't apply to him, doesn't apply to him. And then it says the government's arguments about the sentencing guidelines also suffer from enormous flaws. For example, the government is now claiming that Cassandra, Ventura, and Jane were co-conspirators and that Mr. Combs was a manager or supervisor of one or more participants, namely Ms. Ventura and Jane. On this basis, it claims that the 3 levels were added to guidelines calculation, but the government, I feel like Cassie has every right to be afraid. She knows him. She's foul. She knows how his temper is. He been behind bars for 10 months. And all he got charged was with prostitute too. I can see why Cassie was like, y'all got to do something, make sure he stays in there. It's only a temporary measure, though. Only a temporary measure. Because they can't keep him in there. Well, technically they can. If the judge moves forward and sentences him, he can. Now, the judge had already said that he wanted to sentence him in October. He's going to make him sit in there till October till he was able to sentence him. With that being said, I felt like the judge was going to let him just sit in there a year and a month and then tell him time served, you can go home. That's what I thought, maybe in my mind, like that might have been his logic or whatever. But the defense is like, we want you to hurry up and he wants to, to be sentenced earlier. So they're supposed to have a hearing, I want to say, unless it's changed. They're supposed to have a hearing July 8th. And I guess he will consider moving the date up. But I don't know what that would be or what that looks like. But you want to hurry up and get sentenced so you can hurry up and do your time? Is that what it is? Or do you think you're going to walk? Because I feel like he thinks he's going to walk. So I don't know. What do y'all think, though? I just think that the prosecution messed up. I really do. I think they should have went with charges that if they were unsure about what was going to stick with the RICO, they should have went with other stuff that was going to stick. At least he had pals that they found in the raid, right? Why wasn't that used as a charge? I remember them showing it when they first raided the house, and they were all proud about what they had seen and how the numbers were like um scraped off and all that kind of stuff. That was mandatory. What? I know in my state it's a mandatory 5 years. I'm not understanding why they didn't use that if it was all about him going to jail for something. But why do you think they would go for RICO? I could have told them there wasn't going to be no RICO because based on the story and what they were saying, I couldn't see how he was making any money off of anything that he was doing. It was for his personal pleasure. He was spending money. He wasn't making none, right? And he was using, and so what? He was using the money from his businesses, but a lot of people use their money for their business for their personal pleasure. That's why you have a business. It's your livelihood, right? That's your personal pleasure. It wasn't business. It wasn't like he was making PORN and then selling it, making a profit. He wasn't doing any of that. This was for his personal pleasure. Personal pleasure. So I could have told him right off the bat, that's not going to be no RICO. I was preaching this the whole time, but here we are. I mean, some people are slower than others. That's all I'm saying. You know? But anyway, I'm not going to read all this, but I want to see something else. Let me read this. It says the government overstates Mr. Combs' sentence exposure. On this basis, it claims that okay. Similar reason. Okay, the government arguments that 2 points should be added for obstruction. The government argument that 2 points should be added for obstruction at the equally meritless. First, the enhancement would not apply to either. So I don't know what the government submitted. I guess I'm gonna need to go back and read that, but the reason why he should stay in there, why he should have been denied bail. But anyway, the judge denied him bail. So whether he thought he was going home yesterday, he did not. So he's back at MDC. And he's got to wait at least until the hearing to find out what's going to happen further. So I'm assuming he thought he was going to be home for the 4th of July. And I'm sure they was going to plan a big party and all kinds of stuff. But don't bring out the fireworks just yet, Diddy. Anyway, tell me what you think. Share with me what your thoughts are. Were you excited that he got off for those charges? Are you mad that he got denied bail? Or do you think he should get thrown the book? Tell me what you think. With that being said, please like, share, and subscribe. Please like the video before you leave. And with that being said, everyone be blessed. Peace.